We teach that it's so important to measure profit in other ways than the bottom line of an income statement.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Sustainability Talks with NNN. Hi from Nicolo.
Hi from Nicolo.
And today we have Andrea Kennedy.
Hi.
Andrea is a fellow fashion lover and executive in the past, and also right now she is teaching fashion industry at Liam College. We would love it to have Andrea today here with us because we want to talk a little bit more on the scholar side of sustainability. How does the school system, and especially the fashion school system, approach sustainability? So Andrea, give us a little bit of background.
Everything we teach in fashion at every college and university is really still so similar to the way I learned. And if we don't change the way we design, develop, manufacture, distribute, market, then we're doomed. So I do everything I can in order to really change the way students think so they can enter the industry thinking differently than we've been taught and everyone else is entering the industry. I'm a designer and a fashion publisher, and I've worked in design, merchandising, and product development. Very early in my career, started a company called Fashion Decks. I had a Rolodex on my desk, and I made it all about fashion and decided I'm going to sell it. So at one point, one of those brands that I was working with, I had not approved a lab dip of fabric. At the time I asked, that lab dip, I want to see that again. Maybe we can use that for an exclusive for a department store. And he said, oh no, it's gone. We had dyed up 3,000 yards. When you didn't approve the lab dip, we sent it away. And I said, what? And they said, well, we didn't have room to store 3,000 yards. And I had learned it was incinerated. Now, this was a long time ago, but it made me realize that the decisions that we make as designers and as fashion executives are really so wasteful. At the time, I was only nervous that I'd be fired. Like, whoa, what a huge amount of money and loss. No one ever said anything about that. However, through Fashion Decks at that time, I said, we need to be sourcing more sustainable, responsible materials and manufacturers and suppliers that are in our books. And that's how I did it. And then I was teaching about 6 years ago, one course at LIM in the late afternoon on a Monday and Wednesday. And I did that for about a year. And then I said to the chair at the time, there's no course here, as far as I know, on sustainability. We'll develop one. So I did.
Wow. Are the young generation passionate about it?
Every year they become more passionate. Now students are coming in, they are more passionate about it. They seem a little more anxious though. First, it's talking them out of despair. And then we can work towards the knowledge and the learning and the strategies and the theory behind, and then the practices.
How do you approach sustainability in your daily life?
I am a big Rent the Runway customer, so I haven't been buying new clothing in a while, and I love it. And sometimes it looks like it's been worn about 30 times, but for the most part, it's been great. Buy anything in plastic. I have a hybrid vehicle. Next one, I'd like to be an EV. You can't live without an impact. There's a lot that needs to be changed in order for us to really live a low impact life, and we're not there yet.
We see now more and more brands that are doing or subscription rental high-end fashion. Is this a trend that will be bigger in the future?
I do think it's still uptrending. I do not think sustainability is a trend though, but I do think the sharing economy is uptrending. It hasn't peaked. And I think it will be around for a while. For those who do like to buy from ThredUp, buy from The RealReal, or rent from Rent the Runway, or any of the other many subscription services, that's only going to increase for now.
What are for you the major ESG issues related to the fashion industry?
Transparency and visibility. Without having transparency along our supply chains, we can't see all of the players on, as you know. I still do sustainability consulting for big brands. And when I offer a proposal of a plan that is very relevant for that brand and their customer, there are individuals usually at the top of that company that will say, this looks great, but it's going to cost us too much. And I'll say, but we can offset the price by doing this and doing that. And they'll be like, well, we don't want to do that. And we don't want to raise our prices. We've been selling blank for $39.99 for 20 years, and we sell 1 million units. That's our sweet spot. We can't add another dollar or two. Those are all challenges to true, sustainable, responsible, ethical, loving, and respectful governance, right? And then the other challenge in fashion is that we are very much a top-down industry. And really, if you really want to change the way your culture is, it must be all inclusive, and everyone from the bottom up has to be part and excited of making sustainable clothing or sustainable jewelry or sustainable beauty products or sustainable pillows or whatever it is you're doing.
It cannot be one person. It needs to be the entire organization.
No one should be undermined. No one should be left behind. So, everybody must be part of it and excited about it.
We want to ask you, are certification helping sustainability in a way?
More designers and production agents are looking at textile certifications such as Blue Sign or GOTS or Ocotec, RAP or Fairtrade certified. I happen to love the Sustainable Apparel Coalition's HIG Index, which isn't a standard or a certification, but it's a way to measure material impacts and product impacts and brand and retail impacts and factory impacts. But until consumers understand what this means, it's really not serving the purpose it needs to serve. So we need some awareness building and education around it. I love that, Allbirds is carbon labeling, which is not a certification. It's their own self-created standard. They're measuring a carbon footprint, putting it on there almost like a food label. But I don't think consumers are understanding any of this yet. I think they understand, the words organic cotton, but they don't understand those certifications behind that. And there's so many of them. There's BCI, there's fair trade certified cotton. There's so many. And then you can use the words without having certification. So it's confusing.
How do we quantify the return on investment? Do you teach this at school?
We teach that it's so important to measure profit in other ways than the bottom line of an income statement. We teach that your number of sales, those are great economic gauges, right? To benchmark your progress. But how can you measure success environmentally and socially? That will bring in a lot of customers. But we have to measure success of that. I do think that the HIG is getting there. Now they have the full life cycle impact from raw material source through spinning, through textile production, and they can show you they're abandoning that single score. Your exact amount of water that is consumed, exact kilograms of CO2 emitted. You can almost make an LCA using that. Almost. Many members who I speak to are members and never use it.
How do you change the linear way of designing to a circular way of designing?
So right now, the easiest way to do that is through materials that are regenerated or recycled, at least part. You can source cotton that is 50% recycled cotton. You can source polyester or nylon that has anywhere from 10 to 100% recycled fibers. It is easier to do that. We are not at the point where we can chop up all of what we're wearing and magically make a new piece of clothing like is being done at the H&M store in Stockholm. To work towards circularity in fashion also means designing materials that won't biodegrade out of the system. In order to design less linear, we have to design toxins out of the system, because even if it's a natural fiber or leather, if we're putting formaldehyde on it or dyeing it with something dangerous, it will biodegrade and pollute the soil. There are many ways to design by looking towards the future that we're not making things that will sit in landfills for decades anymore. And that's really what's very important too.
Will fashion be ever sustainable?
I do believe it will be. I believe the solutions exist. We need to work to scale them. We needed to get a little desperate and more people to understand it, to start happening, and it finally is happening. I see myself, students enrolling in the minor. They want to be agents of change. They're afraid for their future and they want to be part of the change. And because of that, I think it is going to happen.
Do you think the municipality, the government, or it's purely bottom up from the company, consumer, and then to the government?
Ultimately, yes. We need some type of policy, some type of taxation that you pay if you're going to pollute, that you pay if you're going to put more global warming, atmospheric CO2 and greenhouse gases into the air. Ultimately, we do need that. In the meantime, at least we have some great companies paving the way. And I do think that we are going to see a future by 2050 where we will have zero impact garments that are completely circular, and we will not have the waste issues and the toxicity issues, the resource depletion and the human exploitation issues we have anymore, because we will be transparent.
That was what we wish, what we try to do. We try to educate people on the sustainable matters with people like you, Andrea. So thank you very much for your word and your insight on.
Ciao, thank you.